Really, writers? We're supposed to feel bad for Mary? We're supposed to feel bad that Ryan and Luke supposedly haven't been good enough friends to her? And now that Mary's a psychopath, we're supposed to feel so bad that we blame everyone except the person whose fault it actually is? Good luck with that. These Batwoman writers, man, I really don't know anymore. It's as if they genuinely have no understanding of human behavior or even basic cause and effect. So Mary is evil now. More so. On a normal television show written by normal people who have even the tiniest sliver, the tiniest molecule of writing talent and common sense, you could make this work. Because on a normal television show, Mary would be one of the more sympathetic characters after everything she's been through. Watching her mom get murdered, having Kate Kane for a stepsister, who wouldn't feel sympathy for someone like that? But this isn't a normal television show, and instead of writers with talent, we have Caroline Dries and whatever slack-jawed cud chewers that she hired out of the nearest gender studies classroom. So when you have those jackasses writing a story in which Mary turns evil and the blame for this is placed on everybody except the one who's actually responsible, I don't feel sympathy for her. All I feel is pissed off that this godforsaken crapfest stole yet another hour of my life that I'll never get back. If anyone deserves sympathy, it's the poor bastards who had the misfortune of watching this trash. Then again, we are in Season 3 here. Any viewers who might still be watching really should know better by now, so this is on them. Don't look at me, I tried to warn you. Anyway, the episode starts in the park. Some girls are playing basketball. One of them notices some sludge leaking out of the tool shed, and inside is a man trapped in beeswax. He says, "Help me," and then a bunch of bees fly out of his mouth. If you're wondering how he was able to talk with a bunch of angry bees in his throat, you really shouldn't. It's not like the writers ever did. Montoya wakes up from her nap long enough to investigate this. There's some dick-waving with the detective in charge about whether she has jurisdiction here. Turns out Montoya isn't an actual cop, at least not anymore. She works for City Hall. But then she gets to boss everyone around anyway, so it's not like that matters much. She tells them to take the victim to the illegal underground abortion clinic so he can be examined by fresh out of med school Mary, instead of a hospital or a medical examiner who specifically trained to deal with these sorts of things, then pulls the Vic's phone out of the honey on the wall and says to tell the commissioner that they need all hands on deck because things are about to get ugly. About to? Where the hell have you been for the last 3 years, Renee? We go to Montoya's office where Ryan and Alice are there with her getting the rundown. The perp bloomed a bunch of flowers in the shed, weaponizing the natural world, and that's Poison Ivy's MO, so her new host must be the culprit. Her new host. Apparently, Poison Ivy is less of a person and more of a mantle that can be bestowed upon people. Or something. I don't know. It's confusing and they don't explain it. Montoya thinks whoever was infected by those vines Alice showed her last week did this, and she knows that Alice knows who the new host is, but Alice isn't telling, which has Montoya annoyed? Not that she's doing anything about it, mind you. She could threaten to send Alice back to Arkham if she doesn't spit it out, but instead Montoya just makes her angry face and does nothing. And if, like me, you're still wondering what the hell the point of Montoya being there even is at this point, if this is all they're doing with her, just wait. That point will be revealed later. They just don't really have anything for her to do in the meantime, because that thing was the only thing the writers thought about or cared about when they introduced her. Spoiler, she's gonna f*** Sophie, because lesbians. Then Montoya mentions that not only is Mary seeing to this victim, Mary's also overseeing a bunch of other cases for her. Really? There was no one more qualified for that than someone who graduated from med school a cup of coffee ago? Turns out the writers never wondered about this either. Anyway, Alice is very interested to learn what Mary's been doing. That makes one of us. Over in the Batcave, Sophie is there chillin' as she has the computer searching for the Black Glove Society. And she did score a security camera shot of evil white dude from 2 episodes ago, but lost him a block from the apartment. So Ryan comes in. Sophie is really focusing on the Jada Jet thing and how she must be responsible for how Sophie's sister almost died. Ryan says Jada wasn't responsible but won't say how she knows this. Says Jada initiated the project but had no idea people would die, which Ryan believes because Jada said so. Sophie naturally wants more information, and when Ryan won't give her any, Sophie gets mad and storms out. 5 minutes in, and this is already so f***ed up I want to punch somebody. So Jada asked Ryan not to tell anyone about Marcus? I don't give a rat's ass. We watched Marcus savagely hack a man to death last week. You know what he's capable of. You know what he might do. The intelligent, responsible thing would be to tell your friends what's up so you can figure out a plan together. Which is why Ryan doesn't tell Sophie, because intelligence and responsibility have no place within the walls of the Batcave. Not since it's been fitting a woman anyway. Cut to the illegal underground abortion clinic, which looks like a freaking forest. There are so many plants in there now. Alice is paying Mary a visit, and she flat out says that Mary's the one who attacked that victim because she's infected by poison ivy, and Alice knows this because of, you know, all the evidence. And Mary's response is something else. Get a load of this. I'm Dr. Mary Hamilton. Do you actually think I'm capable of hurting someone? Physically? No. Mentally? Emotionally? Psychologically? You're so depraved f***ing Pinhead would be taking notes from you. Then the victim wakes up and says Mary did this to him. Busted. Cut to the Batcave, where for one scene, the writers have decided that continuity is still a thing. Yeah, I couldn't believe it either. Since Team Batwoman's #1 rule is holding each other accountable, just let that one sink in, Mary tries to confess that she's Poison Ivy. I know what you all must be thinking, she says. Mary, that's impossible, because you're so normal and compassionate. And that's where I stopped listening. Writers, did you actually read what you wrote in the script here? Or did you use a random word generator or something? Compassionate? Mary wouldn't know compassion if it f***ed her in the ass. This is the same character who spent season 2 shitting all over her dad when he was at his most vulnerable and spitting in his face every time he tried to help her out. Believe me, there are plenty of words I would use to describe Mary, but compassionate? No. You. Mary points out all the evidence and how she can't remember where she was earlier today, but Luke and Ryan still refuse to believe it until the victim's phone records come up on the computer and reveal that he was texting with Mary this morning. That clinches it, so Ryan says no one can know about this. And Alice quickly points out the hypocrisy that it's okay if she goes to Arkham, but not Mary, because God forbid we lock up Mary, who is dangerous and insane, in an asylum for the dangerous and insane. What a crime that would be. Then, Mary momentarily toys with the idea of not being the most punchable dipshit this side of Barry Allen and handcuffs herself to something heavy, because she's a threat to everyone, and until they figure this out, she's staying right here, right next to all the dangerous weapons that she could easily use to kill someone if she turns evil again. Even when she tries to do the right thing, Mary is just the worst. Cut to Montoya's office. She's drinking on the job again, but hey, at least she's awake. Sophie walks in, and Montoya says, only a fellow workaholic would assume I'd be at the office at 2 a.m. Workaholic? I can count the scenes where we've seen you doing any work at all on 2 fingers. Workaholic. That random word generator is working harder than you. Now, outsourcing all of your work to other people, you bust your ass at that. But working hard yourself? Get the hell out of here. They do some dick measuring. Sophie wants information on the Black Glove Society. Montoya won't give her any. Then Sophie says that if she weren't willing to babysit Alice, then Montoya wouldn't be able to prove to the mayor that she could round up all the missing Batman weapons, and without Alice, none of these cases are getting solved. Really? None of them? Because the season literally started with 4 of those weapons having already been recovered, and Alice had nothing to do with those, so continuity being a thing, Yeah, that was just for one scene. You can forget that now. But Montoya says she knows nothing, and anyone who knows anything about the Black Glove Society usually ends up dead. Everyone except Alice, who seemed to know a lot about it when this bullshit plot point first came up, but Sophie doesn't exactly have easy access to Alice. I mean, it's not like they're roommates or anything. Back at the cave, Mary's phone reveals that she took a selfie while she was Poison Ivy and posted it on her fucking dating profile. See what I meant about no intelligence? Also, she bought some planting stuff at a hardware store and went to a vacant lot. So, Ryan and Alice check out the lot, and Ryan asks Alice how she knew about Mary because Mary told her about the Poison Ivy. And Alice wonders how Ryan didn't know about Mary because Mary didn't tell her about the Poison Ivy. Then Alice kicks over a bucket on the ground to reveal a man's head. It's Evil White Guy from 2 episodes ago, buried up to his neck. For a second there, I thought he'd been decapitated and Mary had killed him, but no. Not that it would have mattered much, because Sophie actually does kill him later, and it's not like they make a big deal about that. So apparently Mary tracked this guy down by using her MD to bypass privacy laws. Wow, Mary cares nothing about privacy. What a shock. And now they're holding this guy prisoner. Now, one might assume that Luke would think better of this, since Kate holding someone prisoner in season 1 blew up in her face and resulted in said prisoner almost dying, but when continuity is only a thing for one scene, you can just disregard pesky details like that. How convenient. Also, Ryan wants to keep Sophie out of this for reasons that she really should tell her friends about, but doesn't because the plot won't let her. Luke points out that the victim from earlier called Mary sweet in a DM. I don't know who the hell he thought he was texting, but that wasn't Mary. So she dipped him in honey. And Evil White Guy froze a bunch of people, so she immobilized him. Therefore, Mary deduces that the Poison Ivy pheromones allow her to communicate with nature while heightening the things she's passionate about, like justice. Mary damn near destroyed her relationship with her father because she was so adamant about not reporting bullet wounds to the proper authorities in accordance with the law, but she's passionate about justice? Go to hell. Then Montoya walks into Bruce's office, so Ryan goes to see her, still wearing the bat suit with the door to the office wide open. Anyone working in the building could just walk by the doorway and see her, but she doesn't care, the writers don't care, nobody cares. Montoya wants to know why Ryan didn't tell her there was another victim. If Ryan didn't tell her, how the hell did she find out about it? She's pissed about being kept out of the loop and thinks Ryan is hiding things from her. I guess that's the risk you run when you blackmail a costume vigilante known for employing secrecy when fighting crime into doing your job for you, isn't it? Hope the irony's not lost on you, Renee. She says that after watching the woman she loved turn evil, she couldn't live with herself if she let that happen again. She demands that Ryan call her when the guy wakes up, and then she fucks off. And as she's leaving, the camera pans back, and we can clearly see the fucking zipper on the back of the bat suit. It's right there! The zipper just zoomed in on all nice and tight, almost as if they knew what they were doing and wanted to brag about how cheap this show is. All season 1, Alice was looking for a weapon that could penetrate the batsuit, when that whole time all she had to do was unzip! My God! They make this so easy it's not even fair. I swear to Christ. Back in the cave, Alice spills to Luke and Mary about Montoya and Pamela Isley being a thing, and all that backstory, and how Montoya wanted Pamela buried alive, far away from sunlight, and far away from water. Then they try to figure out what the trigger is that turns Mary into Poison Ivy, but Mary starts feeling weird, so Luke goes to get her some water. I don't even have to make jokes at this point. The show is doing all the work for me. Then when Ryan gets back, Alice says they could ask Sophie to interrogate Evil White Guy because she went ahead and told Sophie about them holding him prisoner to be a good roommate. So Ryan rushes out to stop Sophie from doing whatever Ryan thinks she's going to do to Evil White Guy. Like murder him with a blowtorch. Jesus Christ, that escalated fast. So they have evil white guy hanging from chains in the sewer. See, in season 1, they kept their prisoner in the Batcave, where they could monitor him closely. But now they're keeping their prisoner in the sewer, because nobody on this show ever goes into the sewer. It's not like random people off the street like to hang out in the sewer or anything. I'm sure no one will ever find him down there. You fucking idiots. So Sophie threatens him with a blowtorch, and he folds like origami. He says he was originally hired by Tommy Elliott's mom, who thought Tommy had behavioral problems. No fucking shit. And before that, she formed a secret group of wealthy parents who all had bad seed kids to discuss treatments and whatnot. So the Black Glove Society is literally just a bunch of rich assholes who up their kids so bad that they're now having to spend millions of dollars on R&D to fix their kids' brains. Eat your heart out, Court of Owls. Eventually, Sophie gets pissed off and torches the dude's face. Then Batwoman shows up, and Sophie is super pissed that she had to find out about this guy from Alice. Well, I think she's supposed to be super pissed, but the actress kind of sputtered out at pissy, so that's the best we got. And during this exchange, she calls Batwoman Ryan, right in front of the prisoner, because Sophie's an idiot. The plot still won't let Ryan tell her what the deal is, which Sophie just cannot stand, because it looks like Ryan is siding with someone who sanctioned actual murder over her, and how dare she do that? Then, evil white guy cries out in pain, they rush back to him and find him dead, presumably from the shock of a pissed off idiot going to town on his face with a blowtorch. So all that self-righteousness you had a second ago about being better than someone who sanctioned murder, Sophie? You should probably forget about that. Just like the writers forgot that murder is bad. Remember in season 1 when Kate murdered somebody, and at least for an episode or two before they let her off the hook for it, there was talk about Batman's code and Kate feeling guilty and murder being wrong? Guess that's not a thing anymore, because they dropped this like a bad habit. Sophie murdering a helpless prisoner isn't even mentioned again after this. Ryan certainly doesn't do shit about it. Oh, but this is the team that's all about holding each other accountable, right? Kiss my ass. Back in the Batcave, Alice points out that Ryan went to protect evil white guy from Sophie because his secrets are about Ryan's mommy, which she prioritizes over this team, and also it's only a matter of time before she brings Mary to Montoya in handcuffs. Ryan wouldn't do that, Luke protests indignantly. Luke, insisting that Ryan's such a good person that she'd never take a dangerous, insane person to the proper authorities isn't the mic drop you think it is. Then, all of a sudden, Mary knocks Luke out from behind, because it turns out the trigger to turn Mary into Poison Ivy is sunlight. Like the sunlight coming in through the window. Yeah. Even though this has never been a thing before, even though the Batcave has always been below ground, now, from out of fucking nowhere, not only is it above ground, but it has windows! Because if it doesn't, then the scene can't happen. Okay. So, the Wayne Enterprises building starts at ground level, right? That tends to be how architecture works. Which means that the Batcave has to be in the building, not below the building, because you've got to be above ground to get sunlight in through your window, not underground, where you typically find a fucking cave, in the building. So, I guess the biggest question rattling around in my head right now is, did Bruce find an above-ground cave and build Wayne Enterprises around it? Or did he empty out the entire third floor of the building or something and then build himself a fake cave in there? Even for an episode that wants us to feel bad for Mary Hamilton, that is stupid! Just when you thought the bar couldn't get any lower, now the Batcave has windows to let in sunlight. Mother of God. Alice gets Mary out of the cuffs, saying she's helping her, so Mary will owe Alice a favor. Which translates to, we don't fucking know why Alice is helping Mary, we just need her to because that's the only way the story can happen. Then Mary places an anonymous call to Montoya, saying she saw Poison Ivy at the Gotham Botanical Gardens. And I don't know why Montoya couldn't tell it was Mary's phone she was calling from, but she couldn't. Because, cut to the Gotham Botanical Gardens where Montoya shows up to confront the dangerous super criminal Poison Ivy alone with no backup. Because Montoya's an idiot. Mary talks to her, Montoya wants to try to help Mary, but Mary's not having it, and she somehow knows that Pamela Isley doesn't want Montoya to find her, how she feels having not had any water for years, and that she's thinking about how much she hates Montoya. How can she still be alive if she hasn't had water in years? That is not how human bodies work. That is not how plants work, and this stupid show is not how television works! So Mary controls some plant vines to grab Montoya, not to do anything with her, mind you, just to get her off the screen for a while. Then we cut to the Batcave where Ryan finds Luke just now waking up, and they go after Mary together. And Luke's back in the Batwing suit, not caring that the AI told him he's not ready to wear it. If that wasn't an issue, I'm not sure why he didn't help Ryan last week, but not shockingly, that never comes up. So they enter the garden, and then Mary controls plant vines to grab them too. And these vines are even more effective on Luke than they are on Ryan, despite Luke wearing powered armor that gives him super strength. But not all the time, only when it's convenient to the plot. But the vines doing this was just to set up a cliffhanger to lead us into the ad break, so after the commercials, the vines have just let them go. So Ryan and Luke get up, and Luke's shoulder is busted despite him wearing powered armor that gives him super strength. Remember when he knocked out a guy who was high on Bane's venom with one punch? Yeah, the writers don't either. Luke tries talking to the AI, but it's not saying anything. Then Mary shows up, and she's like, what kind of hero still needs his daddy? You want some ointment for that burn, Luke? So Mary grabs Luke with plant vines, again, after she just grabbed him with vines and let him go, and Luke is really waving goodbye to his dignity right now. He's like, Dad, help me! Help me, Dad! And then Mary reveals that she took out the failsafe and the AI. You know, that thing that did nothing but make the suit shut down at critical moments, which was hindering Luke in the field so much that he shut it off. Yeah, she took that out. And now Luke has been rendered helpless by these plant vines, despite him wearing powered armor that gives him super strength, and he's getting all emotional about Mary having the AI. He's like, that's my dad! And Mary's like, you don't need him. You said it yourself, Luke. You don't have PSD. You don't need a team doctor. He never said they didn't need a team doctor. And you certainly don't need your daddy telling you what you can and can't do, right? So this is getting pretty embarrassing for Luke. But finally, Ryan swoops in from out of nowhere and frees him. And then she apologizes to Mary for being a bad friend. Because you see, that's the reason why she didn't know what was going on with Mary. It wasn't because Mary kept it a secret from her. It was all Ryan's fault because she's a bad friend. I do appreciate that Ryan has enough humility to admit when she's wrong. That's something Kate never had. But it really loses its punch when she does it about something that's not her fault. So stop me if you've heard this one. Mary shits all over Ryan right when Ryan's opened up and made herself vulnerable. Not because she's evil right now, but because Mary's gonna marry. Like I said last time, this is just what she does. You never ask me how I am. You never give me any of your time. You give more of yourself to a woman who literally gave you away and wanted nothing to do with you than you do to your own teammate. And that is not friendship. Oh no, Ryan was focusing so much on the powerful billionaire that she believed was a huge danger to Wayne Enterprises and to the safety of her and all her friends that she didn't have time to listen to Mary's incessant whining 24/7. Even though she attended Mary's graduation and threw Mary a party to celebrate said graduation. But aside from that stuff, she had no time for Mary at all. Boo f***ing who? I'm so sorry that the business of Ryan being a crime fighter in the most crime-riddled hellhole in the DC universe meant that you had to go without your BFF hanging on your every word for a few episodes, Mary. This is what you're pissed off about? Seriously? This show is written by 5-year-olds! The ironic part being that even a 5-year-old viewer would think this is f***ing stupid! Then they hear police sirens off in the distance, so Ryan says they have to go before the cops catch Mary and lock her up for good. But Mary's still not having it, so she wraps Ryan up with plant vines, again, and takes off. Finally, Montoya shows up. Where the hell have you been for the last 10 minutes? She frees Ryan, and then rightfully gets all pissed off with them because Mary is the most dangerous person in Gotham, and you just set her loose on the city. And their excuse that Mary is our best friend doesn't really do much to make Montoya less angry, because someone has to be the adult in the room, and God knows it's not gonna be either of these clowns. Later, back in the cave, Ryan's beating herself up. She thought she could handle her family crap and her bat crap, but she became oblivious to what was going on with Mary. Only because she kept it a secret from you, you dingus! Also, Luke has a torn rotator cuff, which he says he deserves because he didn't take Mary's warnings about the suit seriously. Luke, Mary's warning was that you shouldn't turn the failsafe off. When you went to the garden, you thought the failsafe was turned on. The only reason the suit didn't work is because Mary sabotaged it. And even if she hadn't, so what? All the failsafe did was make the suit crap out. Well, the suit crapped out here too. So maybe Mary's warning was just a bunch of bullshit! Ryan tells Luke to get every Wayne satellite scanning for Mary 24/7. Meanwhile, they've got to find a cure for her. But how do we do that without our team scientist, Luke wonders? Gee, I don't know. Find someone who actually knows what they're doing? Ryan is the acting CEO of a company that employs some of the best scientists in the world, but instead of any of them, Ryan calls Jada for help. You know, that woman Ryan thought wanted to destroy Wayne Enterprises and wanted to kill her and all her friends up until last week. I'm sure she's totally trustworthy. Cut to the gay bar where Sophie's getting hammered. Montoya sits down next to her, they have a drink, they make f***me eyes at each other, and then they I predicted this would happen within 5 episodes. I was only off by 1. I'm honestly stunned the writers had the restraint to wait as long as they did. And the episode ends with Alice meeting Mary in the park with a stolen car, and they take off for God knows where. I'm not sure how Alice thinks this is gonna play out, since she still has those nanobots in her blood making her a walking tracking beacon, but maybe they'll just retcon that next week, so who gives a shit? Well guys, here's a revelation so shocking it's guaranteed to knock your socks off. Doing a Mary-centric episode was a really bad idea. Not just because it completely exposed how vapid, shallow, and utterly devoid of redeeming qualities and substance in general her character is, but when you add all the asinine Poison Ivy stuff on top of that, well, I had a bunch of stuff I was going to say, but I think this tweet pretty much covers it. All the characters are dumbasses, Sophie murders a helpless prisoner and no one even bats an eye, the Batcave suddenly has windows to let in sunlight because that's the only way the story can happen, Ryan and Luke are blaming themselves for Mary being a jackass, so not surprisingly, focusing an episode on Mary made the episode complete and utter garbage. More so. Oh my god, f*** this show. But, next week is the mid-season finale, thank Christ. So one more, just one more, and that'll be it for this year. Does that mean this season will only be 14 episodes? I mean, I'm not getting my hopes up, but a guy can dream. Can't he? Okay, one more and then I get a break. I can make it. I can make it. Thanks for watching, leave a comment, ding the bell icon, and follow my social media to always be notified when I upload new stuff. Links to all that and to my live streaming channel are down below. I don't know how the like-dislike thing works now. If you can see the counter or not, beats me, but hitting that thumbs up still counts toward helping the video get seen, so do the thing. Also, subscribe if you haven't already, make sure you're still subscribed, and I'll be back with more very soon. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see you next time.